Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of You Enjoy Life. Today I'm talking about health because they say healthy people want a lot of things, but sick people only want one thing, and that is to be healthy. And it makes sense because what's more important than our health? We literally can't enjoy life, we can't do anything if we're not healthy and we're not taking care of ourselves. Now, first off, I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, this isn't even my own advice so much as my experience of what I've seen with health, and I'm just sharing it. Just like I do in my books, which are all for free, linked below. One talks all about food and all this stuff and goes more into detail. But I'm just here sharing my own experience. And if something resonates with you, if you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense, or that's interesting, I never thought about it that way, or whatever it is, well, cool, you can go learn more and go on your journey. But let me just be a person who's shedding some ideas. Hey, be good. Look at this. First off, we have the cutest kitty in the world. This is Bigu. Oh, yo. It's been confirmed by everyone that he's the coolest cat ever made. Look how cool, look beautiful Bigu. Kitties. Oh, yeah. Hi. So, first off, if you're confused about food, just like Seinfeld says, people walk around the grocery store pointing at other people like, you look pretty good, what are you eating? Nobody knows what to eat because there's so many different diets and there's trends, and one minute this food's good for you and the next minute, oh, sorry, it's actually not good, and there's just so much confusion. So I want to shed some light for anyone who's feeling extremely confused and not knowing what to do, but wants to have just some kind of clarity. Because, well, I will say that I feel the best I've ever felt in my entire life. I don't restrict myself. I can eat anything that I want. I have no sort of diet. I have no sort of way of eating things. I have no specific times when I eat things. I am an intuitive eater. So I've learned over time what works for me and what doesn't. It doesn't mean that I eat everything. It doesn't mean that I go eat fast food, but I've learned not to eat it. And there was a time in my life where I was addicted for most of my life, probably to 25 years old. I'm 36 now. There was a time when most of my life where I was addicted to fast food and junk food. I still like to eat ice cream. I still like to eat fried foods and things, but I make pretty much all my own food. And that's a big thing. But to me, even just the intention behind food is so important. And what gets missed often is the energetics of food, because you could eat the exact same meal two different ways and feel different. So if you're so focused and so caught up in like, oh my God, I need to eat exactly this way and I have to eat just these foods. Well, in some cases, that might be the case. I used to be married to someone who had a lot of food allergies, and food allergies is their whole own thing. So I'm not saying that anybody can just eat whatever they want, but just rather that there's so many layers, and oftentimes you go see a specialist or nutritionist, and if they're not focused on the energetics, but they're just solely focused on the actual foods, well, sometimes they're missing these deeper layers. Just like, in our own beings, if we're not really focused on the deeper emotions and we're just seeing the surface, we're missing so much of what's going on. So what I like to do is focus on these deeper layers. I actually have a video. You can search You Enjoy Life, Mindful Eating. I did this blindfolded eating workshop on here that anyone can just watch for free. And the whole idea is to help you tune more into the way in which you're eating. Because if you're stressed out at work, if you're stressed out at work and you're trying to, and you're like really frustrated and you're eating your burrito one hand and you're typing on your computer totally mindlessly, the way that that's going to affect your body is different than if you eat that same meal and you're sitting and you're present. Well, you're so cute. Hey, I know. Let's get you over here, huh? Yo. Baby, yo. Baby, cool. Oh, baby, cool. Hi, say hi to the cutest ever. So, if you're eating, okay, I want you down. If you're eating meals in this very stressed out environment, it's going to affect you in that way. And the other thing is that there's so many diets right now, keto diet and there's so many. I just see people are on these different diets and they're doing these different fasts, and cleanses are so big. But if you're taking care of your body cleanses itself. And I'm not saying don't do a detox here and there or a cleanse or something if that feels good. I like to water fast sometimes. I've done some pretty extreme fasting, and it always challenges me and shows me something. But if I'm so stuck on this idea of like, oh, I need to constantly be cleansing my body and just drinking juice, and what happens is people get really they get really obsessed with being healthy and eating healthy, which can be cool, but sometimes it backfires because then you become so intense about that, and when you eat the wrong thing or something you shouldn't eat, there's all this guilt and shame, and it totally messes everything up. And there's Bigu again. Hey. Mm-hmm. So I just want to kind of bring up a few. Come in here. Okay, come with me. Yeah. I just want to bring up a few ideas, and that is, of course, one of them. So first off, being a mindful eater and getting into your intuition is going to change everything for you. Because in this world, there's so much information, so much facts, and we hear fake news all the time, and you're lying. Well, you're lying. Anyone can support anyone's point. And I'm not saying things don't make more sense than other things, but anyone can do research and find that actually this food does this or this food, or it's been proven that whatever, but we're all unique individuals. So if you get lost in the noise and you get stuck, what you're going to probably find is there's so much distraction out there that makes you confused. And you have to train yourself to actually know what works for you specifically. The reason I didn't wear a shirt in this video is because I wanted to talk about when I was younger, I, really wanted to have a six-pack. I saw all these guys all the time around me, and they were jacked up, and I played a lot of sports, and I saw magazines, and I just thought, like, for me to be healthy, I had to have a six-pack. And I would work out and do all these things. I even once took this drug, kind of an experimental drug, for 2 weeks. I can't believe it looking back, and it was one of those things where it was supposed to, like, shred me, and it's still strange to think about the fact that I did that. And I remember, like, for a week, I had a six-pack, and I was like, this is so weird and crazy and wild. And then eventually it went away because I stopped taking the thing and it was so supposed to shred me and whatever. And over time, I realized that there's no one body type. I know lots of different people with lots of different health levels. Yeah, I can see somebody working out at the gym, right? And they're all jacked up and they look super strong. But what does that even mean? Does that mean that they're healthy? You can work out your muscles all day and be really strong and big. But if you're not flexible, if you're not fluid, and you're just like, then what are you doing that for? Just to look good? Maybe some people just want to look good. They just want to look strong and tough and cool. But for me, life is about being like, what's practical? What actually makes sense? What's essential? What's functional? How can my body move essentially? And what I find is that when I eat well, I'm someone that cooks pretty much all my own food. When I eat well and I take care of myself, everything else just works itself out. I'm not checking my weight. I'm not worried about my levels and this and that, because I know when I feel good. If something's off, I know. I used to eat a lot of fast food and have heartburn and stomach aches and all these things. And when I started uncovering the deeper levels of food, instead of trying to break that fast food addiction, which I tried many years, for 25 years, I was addicted to fast food. And I knew it wasn't good for me for at least those last 10 years. Everybody talking about fast food's bad and this, but I didn't break that addiction, because whenever I tried to, it just made me want it more. When we restrict ourselves from something we really like, it usually makes us want more. You see that all the time with diets. Think about it. People go on diets, they lost 10, 15, 20 pounds, but if they haven't changed their actual lifestyle or changed their relationship to that food, it comes right back. That's why I'd like to do things like blindfolded eating experiences, mindful eating and stuff for people. And I have actually a video on my YouTube for free. You can just search You Enjoy Life Mindful Eating, and I'll take you through this whole blindfolded eating journey, and you might uncover things about yourself that you didn't realize. Because if you're eating from stress, if you're eating from anxiety or fear, or at the dinner table it's tense, you're going to be bringing in those emotions and those energetics, and it's going to be affecting you a certain way. And I saw this a lot. Having a partner who had in the past who had a lot of food allergies, and I've dated multiple people with food allergies. That's a thing. And I'm not trying to say, you can just eat whatever you want, and because people have different situations. But what rather is that we did a lot of research and saw that oftentimes people that had a lot of trauma in their childhood develop autoimmune diseases. I know people that would gorge on bread and cheese and things, and then they would end up becoming allergic to them, and think about the emotional implication of that. You're stressed out. You're in a turbulent household, you're just eating all this stuff, and then your body is responding in a certain way. So if we're just looking at the physical manifestation, saying, okay, this is the food, this thing's good, this thing's bad, it's so segregated. And this isn't just me. This is a lot of people that I know, that I talk to, who have become intuitive eaters. They've gone through a similar journey. They've been so confused about health, and they try this diet and they get really into it and it works so great, but then inevitably it backfires because there's a restriction, or because they get so obsessed with this certain type of diet and they find themselves counting calories, and then that puts on more stress, and there's all these layers to it. So learning to be an intuitive eater changes everything. And again, it doesn't mean you can eat everything. Just because I can eat everything doesn't mean I'm going to, doesn't mean I want to. I didn't break my addiction to fast food because it was a conscious desire of this is bad for me, I need to stop, I'm not going to eat anymore. No. Over time, the more I tuned into the foods that I was eating, the more I was actually trying to savor those McDonald's and fast foods, the more my body was like, you don't even want this. Now I walk by a fast food restaurant and I get kind of a queasy feeling, because the last time I had McDonald's many, many years ago, I got really sick. We were on tour with our band. It was coming home, my bass player Sean and I, It's like 3 in the morning from Boston, driving back to New York City, and stopped at a rest stop. The only thing that was open was McDonald's, and I was already pretty much like over the fast food phase. But I was like, whatever, I'll get like a little thing. And I remember I had like a couple chicken nuggets or something, and I felt like I was poisoned for 3 days, and it was crazy. And I'm not to say that that is the case all the time, and people eat it. And I grew up eating it, and in some cases I felt okay, but your body catches up. And I didn't recognize that the stomach problems I was having on the toilet and the heartburn were often associated with the foods that I was eating. But not just what I was eating, how I was eating them. Because to me, McDonald's was like, oh, I could go to this place and I could just gorge on fries and barbecue sauce and the cheeseburger and all. It would just, everything's soft and they kind of like mushes in your body. But I was missing all these deeper layers of like, oh, I'm eating this because I'm trying to soothe something. Something isn't right inside of me, and this food is cheap and greasy and just hits that note. And listen, sometimes I like to gorge still and pig out every once in a while. I like to eat ice cream. But to me, what's interesting is like, I don't ever get to that place of being way too full. Because I know when I get full, my body knows when to stop. And when I actually sit and savor my food, I don't want to keep eating and eating and eating. Oftentimes it's when like if you eat too fast and you're mindless, you're sitting and watching TV trying to eat, you don't even appreciate your food. But if you sit there and you're calm, deep breath, and you're patient, and you just like enjoy, and I like use my hands, break things apart and just enjoy. By the time the food's gone, it's like you've actually got to have this really enjoyable experience, and you're not necessarily craving more. So again, there's so many layers to food, but if you're caught up in diets and fads and trends, they're usually just that. Somebody came up with an idea, they figured out something that worked for them, which is unique to them, and they found a way to convince other people that it worked for them. And it might work for them too. I'm not saying it doesn't. But they write a book and they go on talk shows and they create this whole trend and they have all science to support it and everything. And like people like to give their authority away to other people because like, well, he's studied, he's done the research, or she's got the degree or whatever. And I get it. But at some level in anything, not just food, you have to know how to sort through all the crap and figure out what makes sense to you. So that's what food is really about. It's a journey. It's not lose weight and like losing weight in 3 months is like make $50 million. Like there's all these things. People are like, oh, if I make 10 grand in 3 months, I'll be happy. But then the 10 grand's gone and then you're back to who you are. It's the same. Okay, you lose 30 pounds. Cool. Maybe that's necessary for your health, and I get that. But if it's not sustaining change, you're probably going to gain it back. That just happens all the time. So I say slow lifestyle changes over time as you bring in more and more awareness and start to take back your own authority and not just give your power away to all these things that are often based in fear. And over time, you'll just get healthier and healthier and healthier. If something goes wrong, you actually have the tools to seek out the right specialist or get the right help or figure it out yourself. It doesn't mean this is just about doing it on your own. It doesn't mean that you have to figure everything out on your own, but rather getting clear about knowing what works. Because you can go to 2 different doctors with 2 different opinions, and at some point you have to make a choice, right? And maybe the choice is, well, this one makes more sense to me, or this one makes more sense, or neither actually makes sense, and I'm going to figure something else out. So figure out what works for you, and know that there's no right, there's no wrong. People are always in different situations, but when you learn the things that work for you, and you learn how to have discernment within your own experience, well, to me, that is the ultimate form of health.